Now, look, I didn't weigh in at the time of the blink-and-you-miss-it midterms, but buried beneath the headlines in an otherwise uneventful election, Republicans somehow managed to win 96% or so of all races on that particular night, which is, I suspect, one of the operative reasons the blue wave hashtag popped up for about 15 entire seconds on Twitter before being replaced by a video of a cat on a unicycle or some shit. But at least in this case, I suspect what overshadowed that otherwise favorable news for the embattled Oompa Loompa in the Oval Orifice is the fact that Virginia, in the not-too-distant past a state so red Elizabeth Warren claimed mutual ancestry, went full-blown blue. Now, most of you already know about the state electing Al Jolson, the fucking governor, but this time around, it was a top-to-bottom blue bath. State House, State Senate. Fuck, I'm fairly certain the state mine inspector's wearing a set of Karl Marx underoos. It's over! Shrieked so very many on the right, with even more milquetoast adherents like the frayed nerve in a fucking suit known as Glenn Beck bugling the call of mass migration's role in the outcome. And while that was doubtless a contributor, I almost immediately cautioned against leaning on the leftist immigrants narrative too fucking hard here. To hear native Virginians tell it, the state Republicans put up politicos and John McCainite cockholsters across the board, and thus most conservative Virginians were left utterly without a rabbi. Then there's the out-of-state interest group Every Town for Gun Safety, funded by anti-Second Amendment mong Michael Bloomberg to the tune of $2 million or so, painstakingly coordinating their efforts to target counties teetering on the edge of a deep blue fucking flip exclusively, and wham bam, thank you sham, the final result speaks for itself. Compounding the pervasive lethargy on the Virginian right was the certain knowledge that Ralph Northam is a gun grabber of unprecedented proportion, so cocksure about his anti-gun agenda in a state that not 10 years ago was considered something of a haven for firearms ownership. Hell, they passed concealed carry not 2 years ago. He's having the presumptive legislature, which will not take office until fucking January, draft what will be the most sweeping firearms regulations in the country once passed. Yes, friends, worse even than California. What do I mean by worse? Well, crack open a cold one, because trust me, you'll need it after perusing this post-apocalyptic horseshit. Hell, I don't even drink and I fucking need it. The chief offender here is SB 16, a blanket ban not on assault rifles, not even on old faithful weapons of war. No, sir, in the Democratic Party of 2019, the definition is as wide as their minds are narrow. Assault firearms. What, pray, is an assault firearm, you inquire? Thanks for asking. Ambiguous bullshit. Scratch that. All-encompassing ambiguous bullshit. As you'll see, what they define as an assault firearm includes virtually any weapon not wielded in Battlefield fucking 1, and even quite a few that are, up to and including any semi-automatic rifle or even shotgun. Sorry, Joe Biden.
You don't need 30 rounds to protect yourself. Buy a shotgun.
And get this, any pistol that weighs over 50 ounces unloaded. 50 ounces. We're measuring murder potential like fucking fruit now. And it goes without saying they're dusting off old faithful any and all magazines carrying more than 10 rounds, as if some manner of murder magic is woven when you load the 11th fucking round or some shit. For perspective, there are models of Mauser C96 broom handle pistol that carry more than 10 rounds. A World War I weapon commercially available in the Old West. I ought to know. I own one. But the most alarming addition by fucking far is opacity squared. For at the end of this Edwardian era edict, they drop this doozy. Or any weapon of like type. Feel free to join me in a hearty what in the pan-fried fuck does that even mean? Camp guns over 8 rounds, super soakers over a gallon, a Nerf bazooka with a built-in suppressor. Better question, what in the fuck doesn't fit that description? Answer, it means literally anything, and that's the way they like it. Mind you, they're not calling it confiscation, and they won't even when it's enacted, but given the blackest mark against this law, confiscation is an outright inevitability, for SB 16 lacks a grandfather provision, meaning any and all firearms purchased before its enactment are banned explicitly and must be turned in lest the owner face felonious reprisal. Fuck, the new Virginia DA is already amped up to try some cases in defense of this laughable fucking law, bloviating Ad Astra in the media about the need for prompt enforcement. And Virginia Representative Donald McEachin is already expressing his personal belief that the governor will have to mobilize the National Guard to enforce the fucking thing. No tyranny here, huh? But there's a silver lining around this black cloud, and best of all, it's getting bigger. Lest you believe the overall population of Virginia truly has gone blue, almost immediately after the law was announced, a grassroots insurgent swept the state as special votes were cast on a county-by-county basis, declaring themselves a gun sanctuary county. One by one, the fist of opposition was extended Ralph Northam's way. When it's all said and done, it's now projected conservatively that 80% or more of all counties in the state of Virginia could name themselves gun sanctuaries over the next 2 weeks or so. It was a special message from the voters straight to the shitbags who sold out to Washington to get elected to begin with, and it read quite succinctly, "Fuck the hell off." Looking at an electoral map, not to mention the rapidly proliferating number of counties already on their way to declaring themselves firearm sanctuaries, it's abundantly clear most of the Virginian landmass doesn't like gun confiscation. Just all the urbanites dwelling in the welfare bubble of fucking Richmond. A tale all too familiar and something the founding fathers attempted to address with the Electoral College. Now watch my Electoral College abolition is retardation rant for further elucidation on this topic, but the bottom line here, it's become increasingly obvious the founders may not have gone far enough with the Electoral College. There were some big cities in the 18th century, but absolutely nothing on the scale of modern-day New York City or LA, which are all but a country unto themselves with GDPs that often rival several actual ones and wield influence on par with same, meaning the issue of politicians campaigning in densely populated areas while ignoring more agrarian populations that house actual agriculture and manufacturing has, if anything, intensified in the intervening centuries, something it's become increasingly clear cannot be redressed without enacting the Electoral College on a state-by-state level and county-by-county. So if the National Guard won't play ball, as even leftist media are already admitting, how could you conceivably enforce this fucking nonsense? Door-to-door confiscation better come with a complimentary body bag, if not for the citizen, then the fucking officer. Imagine the sheer logistical nightmare of asking active patrol officers to take hours away from fighting actual crime to kick down the door of a known gun owner, many of whom will be ex or even active military members, all because their AR-15 retroactively violates some venal fucking law. So how might it be realistically enforced, you ask? Well, to answer this question, you kind of have to ask yourself how they handled unconstitutional confiscation of private property in previous instances. Our spectacularly counter-constitutional roadway and automobile laws, for example. Razor, that's an ANCAP overreaction. We need basic, common-sense automobile regulations, don't we? Yeah? You think George Washington froze his wooden fucking dentures off at Valley Forge, turgid at the prospect that perhaps, if he fought real hard, private citizens could one day be forced to obtain and pay for 2 separate licenses, and in some cities even pay the government annually or biannually to continue to operate their own private fucking property on American roadways? Think he'd be hip to photo fucking radar, which in essence amounts to an illegal search of your vehicle? Dude dropped the gauntlet because they taxed his tea, for fuck's sake. What odds do you put on him dropping trout for the DMV? Now, what does this have to do with gun laws? An awful lot, actually. Our outrageous automobile regulations permit the seizure or impounding of your private property, namely your car, if you fail to appear or pay your parking tickets. But they don't just pop your fucking garage door and gank the thing, do they? No. Once you're found in violation of insurance or vehicular registration law, in essence, when your car becomes a prohibited object, not unlike an AR-15 in fucking Virginia, some shitbag judge whose name you'll never know issues what's called a bench warrant. In essence, a warrant that is acted upon at the officer's discretion. Meaning if they're having a slow day, they might pick your ass up, but chances are better than 100 they'll leave you alone until you interact with a police officer in any way. Pulled over, Domestic incident? Bushes in your front yard catch fucking fire? Better not talk to the popos about it or your ass is going to jail. Why risk life and limb kicking down some gun nut's door when you can bench warrant their ass into oblivion? A judge in a building you've never been in is going to quietly suspend your constitutional rights, and all you can do is eat it and smile. See the problem? You don't have to be a rush hour Rambo to know this is a drastic overstep of gubernatorial authority and a rather hilarious, frankly, inversion of the left's traditionally anti-states' rights stance. When Arizona tried to enforce its own immigration laws, stop right there, bigot, enjoy your bullshit court case, Sheriff Arpaio. But when Virginia violates one of the hallmarks of the Constitution, suddenly Michael Bloomberg shouting Sic Semper Tyrannis and arguing for state sovereignty. Democracy is mob rule, and I never saw an angry mob in my life that didn't have more members than IQ points. Steady on, Virginian members of the Razor Force, for nothing lasts forever. How long does a shitbag governor like Ralph Northam serve? Simple. Until he gets caught. I'm Razor Fist. God fucking speed.
Don't you let go! Don't you let go! Don't you let go! They on the circuit line!
The idea that we don't have elimination of assault-type weapons, magazines that can hold multiple bullets in them.
What?